The Ottoman Empire somewhat made an enemy out of the British Isles, but indirectly they didn't. But somewhat, like the Ottoman Empire was fighting everybody around it, man. The forces over time got stretched. I mean, over centuries, got stretched wide and thin. So it was easier to make gaps into the lines of the Ottoman Empire. And that's basically what the English did to the Ottoman Empire. And as you see in the picture right now, I guess, the British Empire at the time, what the British did is quite genius. The thing is, with the British Empire, it didn't have a lot of people going against it, simply because it's an island in the side. It has really good defense system, by geography. It's still technology back then, still not yet that dangerous. It can overcome geography that much. So separated by sea and having big island with decent population was powerful enough to be able to defend itself from any threat. And it is very away from the Ottoman Empire, the Mughal Empire, the Russian Empire, the Chinese Empire, that same to the Dutch basically, but they're even bigger, so they're in even better position. So that position they are in allows them to attack, just like the Dutch. Attack without anybody even thinking of attacking them, because it's far off. Even if somebody of the people they're getting attacked by decided, I wanna, just like how they're attacking me, I'll attack them back, even if they have the capability to do so. Because these are very foreign power to the geography of powers around the UK, or even the Dutch for that. If that particular power want to attack in the mainland, there will be a coalition against them. So UK might, some other powers come to its defense, because a very off-screen power comes to the picture, and some other powers in Europe will say, if the UK would fail, what stops them from going against me? So a coalition will happen. And because it is very far off, you wouldn't have that much success. The thing is, the reason why the UK had more success, first reason, the Ottoman Empire was too tired and such very thin, as I told you, and there's still these stuff going until now in this timeline we're talking about. But then the UK did another thing which is very intelligent, and they made a colony of South Africa. Ottoman Empire could have colonized all the coastline of Africa, including Morocco, but they did that. They would also take off Spain and Portugal, and perhaps at that point they could have done it very early. And in that point, most of the colonies of Spain and Portugal in the New World would be part of the Ottoman Empire as well. Ottoman Empire didn't decide to jump on the wagon for the colonization of the New World, and even if they did at the late passage, where the English, the Dutch, the French, the Spain and Portugal were going at it, they wouldn't gain that much. Perhaps British Ghana would be Ottoman Ghana instead. They would gain certain power there, but it's not really significant. So it wouldn't change that much. It might change a lot for the people living in Latin America, but it wouldn't overall worldwide, and for the Ottoman Empire in a whole wouldn't do that much. However, the Ottoman Empire should have, at whatever cost, not allow the UK to do colonies in Africa, or at least South Africa, because this colony in South Africa made the British Navy pretty damn powerful. Because the thing is, Africa is much larger than in the map you see right now, in the normal maps that we use. It's much bigger, and going around it takes like more than 6 months back then on the ship. So going around this takes a lot of resources, and it is very tiring on the crew and the soldiers on the ship. So also it's still the sailing on a ship all that distance is a big chance of a ship, getting destroyed by hurricanes and whatnot. So you need to be careful, and that will make things really hard to continue your journey to another, multiple thousand kilometers through the sea to make some fights in India. It's kind of crazy. So what this South Africa provides is a rest area and another England from which they charge again and they prepare themselves. Plus in the meantime, same time, it happened to be they discovered that Africa is pretty damn rich and South Africa is full of gold, so that improved the British economy. And at this point, you have industrialization as well, so they need to sell some stuff. There's a lot of motivation for the British. The thing is also with France, the Ottoman Empire didn't take advantage of France. There was a Frankish, what I call Ottoman alliance, and they didn't take advantage of France. They could have made France a puppet, and an entire France and the French Empire and everything could have been second side of the Ottoman Empire, but they didn't take advantage of France. And later on, France, instead of thanking the Ottoman Empire, that they didn't take advantage of them and they did help them to maintain themselves, there would be not France without the Ottoman Empire help against Spain and the Habsburgs. That it's really, really dishonest. I mean, really disgusting that they instead of thanking the Ottomans, they attacked the Ottoman Empire. Napoleon is a big thing for the Ottoman Empire and the Gunpowder empires, because Napoleon didn't just stay in Egypt for 3 years. In those 3 years, he tried to destroy as much as possible the power of Egypt by killing important people, so on and so forth. Napoleon ordered killing of between 1,000 to 3,000 scientists and knowledgeable people and religious science people to be executed daily in these 3 years, and introduced them to the new philosophy of which made a lot of gags talk shit inside of Egypt. Plus, Napoleon is a genius guy. He destroyed most of the Mediterranean, Ottoman navy before doing so, which had a big impact on the Ottoman Empire as a whole. He destroyed a lot of storages that has thousands of ships designed and manufactured, but they just been stored. Like, he burned them all, and the Ottoman Empire couldn't stop them. And from that point, actually, it's not of the failed siege of Vienna. After the failed siege of Vienna, Ottoman Empire started to decline, but the real decline started after Napoleon left Egypt. And actually, Napoleon got defeated in Akka in Palestine. and he said that if I won Akka, I would have conquered the world. But the thing is, and again, I want to emphasize on experience and having a good general back in the days, and it's really important even nowadays. Um, the Ottoman Empire was, yes, in a lot of fights, but there was some chilling times as well, and certain rulers. The Ottoman Empire didn't have that, the long life plans. Each sultan had his own plans. Some sultans didn't have plans. Some sultans went up to the task of the complexity of the Ottoman Empire. They were good. They're good for any other nation. They're good rulers or not. But they're not up to the task of the complexity and the complex stuff that the Ottoman Empire is into. And there's one ruler that really chilled around. They improved the lives of the people living inside the Ottoman Empire even further. But it was already all good, even in comparison to the rest of the world, and you should improve the military. And the Ottoman Empire has a problem with, it's still Turkish focus. They should have increased their military size and made multiple other additional armies. And the Turkish army, the most powerful, should be the imperial or the sultan guard army. But and the maximum the supply line that goes is to Vienna. So even if they conquered Vienna, they can't go further than that at this time. After all this tiring stuff that Persia and Russia is doing and still doing, so they cannot go further than Vienna. Anyway. Also, the Ottoman Empire had some unlucky stuff. They couldn't go into Italy. But the Ottoman Empire shouldn't allow South Africa to be colonized by the British. However, that happened, and because of that, the British brought a lot of pressure on the Ottoman Empire in the Indian Ocean on India. And there was still a Dutch pressure as well. And as I said, like, the Ottoman Empire cannot attack mainland British Empire, nor the Dutch. So they kept on the defensive, and it's really bad to keep defending. Even a wall that you cannot break with one punch. If we assume you live for 1,000,000 years, and every day you punch it for 100 punches at the exact same spot, at some time in the future, you will break through. So it's just like how a water cuts a rock, and how the rivers make its way through land. Same principle. They keep attacking, they keep harassing, they keep trying, they keep focusing on it without any fear of being attacked on the mainland and being stopped from keeping attacking. Ottoman Empire got tired from the Indian Ocean, and they just left the Mughal by themselves. Plus, the Mughal Empire didn't get a lot of influence from the Ottoman, and the Mughal Empire itself started to lose power and got divided. Plus, the Muslim world is divided, most important because of the Safavid Empire. I explained that they're anti-Muslim anyway, but there wasn't unity. And at the same time, I want to explain, like, all these powers, especially the Ottoman, the Mughal, and the Safavid Empire, they were all fighting each other, and most specifically the Ottoman Empire, Safavid Empire, and the Russian Empire. They're fighting each other, exhausting each other. Meantime, France and England are very much, and Spain and Portugal, very much intact, and they keep on improving. And then in the late 18th century, in the 1700s, they started to get some we have the Industrial Revolution, and we started for them to break into new technology. And also, the UK, using its base in South Africa, they got to New Zealand and Australia, uh, and the French started to take over Algeria and Tunis from the Ottoman Empire, and at some point in the 1800s, 1888, the scramble of Africa happened. At some point then, because Egypt's become the weak part, UK then colonized Egypt and cut off Ottoman Empire from the rest of its land in North Africa. That when the French took advantage of that, kept harassing until they broke through, and so the Ottoman Empire lost its North African and African territories in general. And so as the Safavid Empire, the Russian Empire is still pushing on. The Ottoman Empire got very weak in comparison. It has a lot of stuff to do, while the French and the English are improving. Plus, after Napoleon, France and England became kind of allies, and that improved the situation more. And they started to stopped engaging to war in Europe, and a big period, like for multiple decades, no wars in Europe, and therefore the European powers focused on colonization and improvement, while Safavid Empire and the rest of the world is fighting and doing other things, wandering around, not improving. Meantime, the China is basically just chilling. Japan just doesn't understand where it is. Japan could have became the Asian British. In fact, they could have defeated the British Empire and took its colonies as well. However, Japan didn't happen. Japan didn't become that type of Japan, and that type of Japan became exceeded its true power in the late game. In before World War II and in World War II, but Japan had the potential to do it earlier, but they didn't, which is a big mistake. A lot of these, the gunpowder empires plus Japan, they were mixing the medieval technology with the new technology of the gunpowder. In terms of technology, in the 1600s and the 1700s, everybody had the same military technology. And relatively each empire, even in Western Europe, had their own different technologies, their own different, scientists and achievements, and they're all equal in a way or another. But true to the trade and control of trade, the Mughal Empire, the Safavid Empire, the Ottoman Empire are the most powerful, and you have China. China always is the richest of the second richest, or equally in the first place with the second one. We're going to talk about richest area in the world, and always India is the third. Could have become the same thing. Sometimes they are the same with the other two richest areas in the world all throughout history until this point. And that, China competes a lot with the Middle East, either first or the second. Sometimes they change, sometimes they're equal. But that started to change after the New World, and then, some of the Western powers start to harass into the Indian Ocean. Also some other stuff through the Pacific Ocean, through the New World, and through other pressures into the Muslim powers. and through Japan and China chilling around, um, and therefore we get Western Europe becoming a very powerful. Ottoman Empire didn't take advantage of some stuff. They didn't try to improve further. They focused too much of taking Vienna and conquering Europe. The idea of conquering Europe came later because they got harassed a lot by Europe. You know, Ottoman Empire just wanted to take Constantinople because it was annoying. And previous to that, they want to destroy the Persian Empire because it's very annoying. And they did that. But then they are an enemy of Europe because the Pope decided so. They didn't want to expand further. But because the Pope decided to put pressure on them, so they expanded and then they got hit by the Austro-Hungary. And therefore they want to take Vienna because it's the capital of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. But then while doing so, because it's deep into Europe, they became the enemy of Europe officially. And therefore from that point, because the Ottoman Empire wanted to have decent power, just it wanted to take off this dangerous stuff. They kept on trying to take on of Europe, but because of most specifically just Vienna at least, but because of the supply line cannot be stretched wider than Vienna because of because of the transport. By the time they reach Vienna, they finish the campaign, return back. They have to do it before winter. So yeah, they focus too much on that. They have a lot of other pressures. They managed to manage the pressure, but they don't have long life plans. Each sultan had plans for his own reign. There's no much plan for the next century. Some sultans just chilled around. Some sultans are not up to the task because ruling the Ottoman Empire is not an easy thing when everyone around you is the enemy and trying to take pieces out of you, so on and so forth. After 3 centuries, the Gunpowder empires went down. So this is the story of why the the Gunpowder empires got defeated by the West. In my opinion, the main two reasons is simply the New World and the fact they are far off. They keep harass without getting harassed, and the Ottoman Empire just not taking advantage of things that could have done. A lot of chilling by those powerful powers of the time. Plus, the main reason, in my opinion, thinking about it again right now, is because these powerful empires, they keep fighting each other's so badly, they exhausted each other's, and then the Western powers just rose up. And because they have a lot of time to do testing and put it on science, because they're not fighting that much in comparison to the rest, they managed to get industrial technology and began the Industrial Revolution. And the Industrial Revolution required them to colonize because they manufacture so much that is far more than what the number of the people living in Europe, so they had to export it outside. And therefore, that's one of the reasons why they colonize these areas. Most of the areas they colonized, they didn't make factories there. All the factories are and all the structure and the underground structure and the technology stuff were bought inside of the UK. That's why most of the world is developed world. That's why we have the third world. It's related to it. It's not the main reason, something on the line like that. There's a lot of reasons are equal to each other's, but all come together as a chemical mixture, resulting in what it is. Resulting in it is a reaction to it. and through time, of course, as well. And I have a lot of more to talk about, but I guess it is enough for now. So let's finish it. Gate of Babylon, the gate to everything. Peace out.